What's up, y'all? My name is Timothy Goodman. I'm an artist and author based in New York City, and I'm here with Design Milk for DMT Milkshake. So I'm an independent visual artist. I'm a muralist, I'm an author, I'm a commercial illustrator, I'm a writer. My grandmother calls me an artist. And we're here in my art studio in Manhattan right now, where really I could be working on all sorts of things. For instance, I could be working on large canvases for my latest gallery show. I could be working on neon signs with my friends at Yellow Pop. I do tons of brand collaborations and products. For instance, very exciting, I just launched my very own Nike shoe 2 months ago with Kevin Durant, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. It has my drawings all over it, and I designed it. It's very exciting. I also could be working on the latest cover of Time magazine that just came out in the beginning of the year. So really all sorts of things. I do tons of murals and public art installations all over the world. But specifically, I love creating art for New York City, for New Yorkers. I donate a lot of murals to pro bono organizations and schools. I love doing workshops with kids. But today we're going to answer questions about one specific project that just came out, which is my brand new graphic memoir. It's called I Always Think It's Forever, a love story set in Paris as told by an unreliable but earnest narrator. That's moi. And it's 192 pages of my heart, all about the specific story about how I went to Paris for 6 months a couple years ago. And it's told through poetry and art and graphs. And yeah, let's get into it. How did you land on the book's different components, images, text, art, even interviews? How did you know what felt right? Yeah, it's a good question. You know, like that's just the only way I know how to tell a story. There's this continuous through line of the love story, but then you turn the page and suddenly wherever you're at in that love story, I'm wrapping myself in the context universally of today's dating culture. So if I'm in a chapter where I'm talking about the heartbreak of my love story, suddenly you turn the page and then it's like, here's 25 non-cheesy breakup songs, you know, or here's all these funny dating app bios I came across on, you know, Hinge or Tinder or something. So it's, you know, what's personal is always universal. And so it's just the only way I know how to tell stories that do that. How has this project fed your newer work? Where do you go from here? Wow, big question. Honestly, you know, I've been writing, doing spoken word for many years. I've been writing these kind of vignettes, these poems on Instagrams for many years. So it's so great that finally, like, this is all kind of comprehensive in a book together. But honestly, I want to cut an album. Like I really, you know, I've been doing events with my friends who are jazz guys, and where I do spoken word poetry over them playing piano and saxophone. And I've been very heavily inspired by Jack Kerouac. He used to do these albums in the 50s where he would do his poems, his readings over piano. And so I want to cut an album. We'd only been on a couple of dates, but I immediately changed my return ticket back to the United States to a later date. Call it crazy or call it great, but we were having a week like call me by your name, and she was calling me baby like every day. I called that Delta operator and told her exactly what was in my heart. She said, baby, don't you think you could be taking this too far? You've only known this girl for a week. Don't play all your cards. I said, listen, Pam, sometimes you got to roll the dice to win it despite the high stakes. Sometimes you got to look past your past despite how long your last heartbreak lasted. I look back in my past and can't believe I never put it all on the table. I can't believe I spent so many meals talking across tables when we weren't saying anything real. You mentioned Before Sunset in your book, and I believe your work belongs among the pantheon of great, complicated Paris love stories. Wow. What else would you put beside them? Yeah, I mean, Before Sunset is my favorite. Talk about Julie Delpy, 2 Days in Paris. Oh, I love that movie. And then obviously the GOAT, Audrey Hepburn, Love in the Afternoon. What's your favorite moment from the book, from the artist who created it, not the person who experienced it? Good question. I mean, honestly, one of my favorite things about the book is just how I hope that more men and women and everybody can just see what it means to break down masculinity and manhood, you know, in a more penetrable way, you know, like, I hope I can be just an example to men to know that you can be masculine and you can go to therapy. You can be masculine and you can ask for help. You can be masculine and you can cry. You can take medication. It's not binary, you know what I mean? And I hope I serve as an example to understand that you can be vulnerable. You can scream out your love to the world, even at the risk of being hurt. You can cry and be soft and be heartbroken, and that's okay. You don't have to have an armor up. You know, so many of us are still so socialized and conditioned to, you know, not dive deeper. So I hope I can just be an example of that. How much of this is a love story about Paris rather than a love story about someone else? Yo, this is a love story about me more than anything. You know what I mean? This book is really about how I was able to finally stop the cycle in heartbreak and breakups that I always go through, and show up for myself through therapy, through intense evaluation. You know, it's really about a love story about being kinder to myself, being okay with not being okay, accepting my vulnerability as a man, accepting that it's okay again to be masculine and cry or go to therapy or whatever. And, you know, it's really about, you know, Toni Morrison says something like, you want to fly, you got to be willing to give up the shit that holds you down. And that's really what it is, man. It's about putting down the bag of childhood trauma and the emotional triggers that are prohibiting me from moving forward and being more proactive. So that's really what it's about.